Hello and welcome to the absolute game of nerds with your non-geek, non-nerd hosts, JP and Rohan. This is episode 15 with a true nerd joining us today as our guest. And I'm going to have Rohan give a proper introduction for our friend Phil here.
Yeah, we have Phil, the one true king of the nerds, as he is
King of the nerds.
self-proclaimed, which we will get into. But yeah, I just met Phil randomly on Instagram. He actually came across my profile and messaged me. He was like, "Oh, I love your stuff. If you ever need help with anything, let me know." And we just started chatting. And I was like, "Dude, we got to have you on the show." Phil is obviously a huge personality in the community. He's got a new show as well, Comics and Chaos, which is actually very similar to JP and I's show, where it's just there's no real agenda. They just want to talk about stuff, which is why I like it. And they just jump on, have a bunch of awesome guests, and they just discuss. So everyone say hello to Phil. Phil, how you doing? How's it going? Say hi.
Guys, honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me out. This is I'm very new to YouTube. Really trying to find my voice and way over here in the YouTube side of things. Obviously been Instagramming for about 2 years now. Maybe three. I can't remember, but it's been a minute. But yeah, it's wonderful to be here. So I just appreciate the invite, and I'm excited to come out and talk and make new friends and meet new people. And this is what it's all about. And I feel like YouTube's really the place to get to do that, because at the end of the day, I would do lives on Instagram and stuff like that, but there's just such a much more of an ADD kind of mindset of just swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping.
Yeah.
And, especially in the comic book community, everybody's looking for a book for sale or an unboxing. And then they come across Phil talking. They're just like, nah. So doesn't matter how many followers you got. They're just like, are you opening something, Phil? I'm like, no. Are you going to sell something? No. I would go on. It's just like, so this was perfect to really try and get to go to a place where you could really get to know other people. And so I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you guys tonight and make a couple new friends, I hope.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I guess you could say the comic book IG is like Tinder. You're either swiping left or right, whether you.
yeah, it is. It's a very Tinder mentality. I'll agree with that.
Anyway, so Phil, we always kind of start our interviews with just kind of an origin story. So why don't you tell people who you are, how you came into the hobby, when, what you grew up on, that kind of thing.
Okay, so my name is Phil. One True Nerdking. I boy, how did I get started in comics? It was a cold day in Indiana. No, so I really got started with like the Jim Lee X-Men.
Yeah,
And when I was a
just
young
like
kid,
us.
I was oh gosh, I was born in '79, so I'm showing my age. I'm in my mid 40s. And the 90s were my time for comics. I wasn't really into them in the 80s. I got into them retrospectively, but I was not reading, comics back in the 80s. I started off in the 90s. And Jim Lee was what really kind of got me started. And actually, though, it was J. Scott Campbell and Gen 13 that hooked me. And obviously, for reasons being
JP's a
a
big
young
I know
fan.
boy.
those two reasons. There's two reasons for that, right?
Yep. We won't get into that right now, but yes. So yeah. So that's really what that it was that time frame in comics that I really kind of fell in love with comics, and I was into comics until those two reasons with J. Scott Campbell I met in real life, and I decided to move away from comics for a period of time. It's kind of like all of a sudden, like, girls, okay, I don't have to read about them now. I can actually meet a couple. And it was fantastic. But it was my daughter that actually got me back into comics, and her journey through chemotherapy, and us beginning to share stories and read comics with her at a young age, and sharing superhero stories and things like that, inspiring to kids going through those kinds of things. And that's what really got me back into comics, about at least paying much more close attention again and starting to pick up a few things here and there, about 14 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. And then it was what brought me here to social media. Was I've been building websites and internal communication systems and working in medical technology like Epic and things of that nature for a number of years. And when COVID hit, hospitals had to find new ways to communicate with the community and patients and things of that nature. And the foremost way was streaming. And so to begin to wrap their heads around that, they threw me at it. And obviously, I'm not a doctor or a nurse or a medical professional. I'm a nerd. I'm a tech guy. And I was trying to think of, what can I talk about? What can I go on to discover how to best use these tools and not just watch people, because I learned by doing. So I went and started talking about comics, and it started off actually as I was actually going to document my journey of losing weight and watching Marvel movies and going through the whole MCU, and Agents of Shield that all up. But because I was going to do the whole thing in its time in canon, and Agents of Shield happened, and all of a sudden I was just like, well, I can't walk through this whole thing because I'm going to go lose my mind. And then I started getting into like going to auctions, buying books again, maybe getting a little competitive. And yeah, that's when I created this account about 2 years ago, just after kind of COVID started. And I really got back into this account that I am now, One True Nerdking. And that's because my personal account, I'm not going to say its name, but this is a play on that. And that's where it all kind of started, but that's a separate account that I don't really use anymore. So this was One True, like the One True King of the North, right? The One True King of the North from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
The One True Nerd King. Yeah.
The True
I
Nerds
just
call it
dropped
a song of ice and fire, Phil.
Yeah, that's very true. There you go. Yeah. So that's where the name came from. And there was at the same time a King of the Nerds. And I don't know if he's still around, but he got super pissed that I was going by Nerd King. And all of a sudden it was the snubs and the not talking tos, and the like, okay, well, all right, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had the name before me, or like King of the Nerds, but I'm just like, I'm Nerd King. We're just backwards, vice versa. We could be friends. And he just yeah. So anyways,
isn't like a business name where you file for a fictitious name and then you find out, you just sort of go with something.
And he had a cool logo too, man. He had like a crown on him and like the whole robe and everything. Like this guy had a whole logo and everything, and it was just me, like just a picture of me with like holding a comic book for like the longest time. And I think he was just like this freaking amateur, and yeah, then it just all went downhill. So
nice. Real quick, Phil, I was just gonna say it seems to be quite common with most people we talk to that are in our generation, like, and JP and I are the same way. The two comic books that we talk about, what we started on when we were kids: Jim Lee X-Men, Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man run. So yeah, it seems like we all kind of cut from the same cloth in that regard.
Image shaped my youth a great deal, right? I mean, yes, I was exposed to those guys via Marvel. The Marvel family specifically, obviously, is where much of this came from. However, it was those Image comics that kept me coming back. I got caught up in the fad. These guys were on freaking like MTV, dude. I mean, Liefeld was doing freaking Levi's commercials. I mean, their comics kind of came out of the closet, right? Like all of a sudden it was just like, yeah, okay, we don't really talk about it, but these guys are cool, right? Because they're kind of doing their own thing. It's a little rock and roll, right? It's a little rock and roll, and I was able to feel comfortable in it. But we're also of the age well enough to know too, it still wasn't cool though to be reading comics at that time at our age, So it was kind of like one of those things where it was still, comics were cool until the age of like 17, maybe 16, 17 tops. Like at that point, you're in the senior area of being a comic book collector, and then you were officially weird. So it was kind of like, we all left for a little while, or at least we told ourselves we left for a little while, because especially it became so much pop culture. But
Rohan and I, we were we were out for about 20 some years, but you've been in longer. You said for your daughter, right? How's she
That's
doing?
She's doing well. She's on chemo again right now. But
Oh
she's
man,
trooping
so
through. She's a badass. I'm blessed to be around her and see her and witness the magnificence magnificence that is perseverance on a daily basis. And I'm lucky to be a father to such a kick-ass little kid. So I'm blessed, and she's doing good. She's doing good. She's doing her best every day, and I can't ask for more than that. And we share comic books, and well, we used to share comic books dramatically, and then she started getting into anime and manga, and
Now, how old is she?
we still do, but not as much. Comics aren't as cool to her now.
how old is she, Phil?
She's 16.
Okay.
Okay.
She's 16. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So it's been a minute, my friend. It's been a journey. But yeah, she's 16, and she's doing great. She's doing great. I'm proud of her.
good.
So
I'm
I
glad to hear
I
that.
couldn't be more proud of anybody in my life.
That's awesome.
So but yeah, anyways. So yes, we do share comics once in a while, especially new ones. When I see a story, because I am an indie fan, when I see a story that kind of catches her vibe, I especially introduce her to that, and occasionally a Marvel or a DC story if it's something brand new that I can kind of introduce her to. But I don't try to be one of those persons that's like, now back when we started in the Golden Age versus the Silver Age version of Captain America. I'm not that guy. I'm not that dad.
It's
A lot of my comics are modern, 90s and up, because that was what shaped me. Because I'm a reader. I'm not. I do have a few collection like books, like they're because they're characters that matter to me, but they're mostly modern characters. Harley Quinn's, Miles Morales, things like that, right? Those are not like Hawkman and and Batman's,
Green
and
Lantern.
going back to, or original X-Men. I don't
So
have.
are you someone that has like a pull list at an LCS right now currently?
No, and I only don't have a pull list because of what I've been doing with reviewing comics. It became so expansive that it almost became intimidating to go into the LCS each week, right? Because all of a sudden it was just like, oh, crap, I'm going to walk out with 20 books this week. Like, this is ridiculous. I need to start paring it down. And I started talking with John's Comics with kids. Great guy. If you haven't met him, do. Amazing man. And John was just kind of like, Phil, I got a rule. It's like 5 books tops, 5
A
books
week.
every single week. And I said, but there's so many great stories out there. He's just like, and most of them can wait into a trade. Most of them can wait into a trade, because at the same time too, it's like, Phil, you're a reader. Like, you're buying these books, but you're just reading them and they're going into a box, right? It's not like I'm not going out and buying 20 books and flipping them. They're all 20 different issues of completely different books, not variants, not cover A's and B's and C's and D's. It's a cover A, and that's it. No special ratio variants, none of that. 20 different titles. And so that's when John was just like, wait for the trade paperbacks. And I learned that lesson from him, and I've started doing that a lot more now. So what I do instead is I listen a lot to the community, what's kind of getting some buzz, what people sound interested in. I'll obviously look ahead of time as well too, like what's kind of catching on new books this week, or I'll check what's kind of trending with cover price, things of that nature. And those will be the books I go and I jump into. But very often they're new, because I'll read like the first 3 issues and then I stop and I wait until the trade paperback comes out.
So what are you currently reading right now?
I really enjoyed Stoneheart by Emma Kubert. That was a great book from last week. I picked up a few new ones today.
And you're big into the indie thing, right? And that's kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah, I'm a lot more indies. I'm enjoying Liquid Kill. This is actually from Whatnot Publishing. I'm not usually a big Whatnot Publishing kind of guy, but I'm enjoying this. I don't really so much follow series as I follow writers. I love Colin Bunn. I love James Tinian. I like, those two are like 2 of my favorite writers right now. So it really doesn't matter what the project is. If they're writing it, I'm on it. that's kind of like my pull list. My pull lists are almost more writers nowadays than it is
Now,
anything else.
we're not, and we haven't really talked to too many people yet. We have a couple so far, but on the modern kind of age stuff. Tinian is Something's Killing the Children.
Something is Killing the Children. Nice House on the Lake.
Oh, that's him too. Okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah. I know it's DC Black Label, but to me that's Vertigo. To me it's because they bought Vertigo, and all of a sudden it went away, and all of a sudden DC Black Label's out, and so I kind of consider DC Black Label in my heart Vertigo, like a grandfather clause of sorts, but it's definitely not. It's obviously not. It's DC.
Yeah.
I don't even really in some ways, man, I don't even know if I consider Image an indie anymore. Image is like 90% of the indie market. You can't be that big of a market and be an indie. So at the end of the day, I get it, because everybody's publishing under their own, just under the big brand, but it's the fact that you can publish things that really differentiates, and that purchasing power that you have with Image that really differentiates between you and like self-publishers, people with Kickstarters, stuff like that. That's indie AF, man. And that to me is that's my vibe. That's where I try to spend a lot of my airspace when I get into reading. I'll get caught up in FOMO once in a blue moon, but it's the indies that have always, and Sick Tick was where it started. Something is Killing the Children is definitely what got me started down the indie path, and really enjoying Tinian and all of his runs. So yeah.
So can you just bear with me here? So I'm very ignorant to that world. So when I hear it's in the DC universe, but I'm assuming it's DC Black Label, that's not the same universe in a Superman, Batman, and that stuff.
No, it's kind of like their excuse to be more of an adult label. It can be like, you're going to see like, the Captain Colds and like the Rogues, and technically they can still exist in the same universe. They're just basically smaller stories. Nice House on the Lake is just like I don't really know how to describe Black Label as far as like being a part of the DC universe. It's just cool that they can publish that wouldn't fit in with a DC proper universe, in my opinion. That's kind of where Black Label sits, and that's where you can see things like the Rogues and some of the crazier Harley Quinn and Joker stories. Some of the more adult stuff too, like the darker things. They don't you don't want your kid picking this book up off the rack usually.
Got it.
Okay. But Constantine came into the DC world from the Vertigo purchase. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Okay. So that was some time. That was, how long back did they buy?
I don't remember. I wasn't collecting at that point, man. I'm kind of like, I'm the last 2 years indies, right? This is beforehand. When I was exposing my kid to comics and things of that nature, that was Marvel mainly, and some DC. And that was just to me because DC, I don't know, man. DC, being a kid from our generation, I remembered Marvel being a bit more edgy than DC back in when I was reading. Because I felt like as an outcast, outsider kind of kid, the kid that was bullied, the kid that was picked on, the weird one, I always felt a lot more identification with like the X-Men, for example, right? Because it didn't matter what the X-Men did, no matter how good they did something for everyone and saved all these people, all these lives, everybody still fucking hated them. At the end of the day, nope, you're a mutant. You're weird. You're different. We're not going to like you. We just saved Earth. Fuck you, from everybody around. And it's kind of like, in my mind, that kind of felt I got more from that than Batman and the Justice League and even Teen Titans and stuff like that. I didn't see that kind of parallel that I had as a youth growing up to really gravitate towards something. Now, did I feel that in the Image universe? Nope. I didn't feel that same kind of edge I did with like the X-Men and that kind of outcast scenario, but that's what got me into comics. It's not what kept me there, but it's what got me into it. And, those are the kinds of things that I introduced my daughter to, but I wasn't introducing her to the Image stuff, because Image comics from the 90s were all TNA, oversized dudes and very light on story. It was, we got all the best artists, obviously, but we needed to pick up a few writers too. We kind of
Yeah.
forgot that along the way. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, some of them are going to look at it right now. What do you mean? Right. But okay. Yeah. And I loved them and I still bought them. But for a young girl, it wasn't the right kinds of comics for me to be throwing at her at first. So I stuck a lot with Marvel and DC, a few DCs, but mostly Marvel, like Spider-Man and stuff like that. She was really interested in. So yeah, it wasn't until the last 2 years that I kind of became disenchanted with Marvel and DC
Why?
comics proper. It felt repetitive. It's always an homage of an homage of an homage of an homage of an homage, or oh hey, we're starting over the universe again with the exact same story, but it's just somebody slightly different, or we're gonna put in a twist where now it's it's whatever. And I don't mind the I am a champion of diversity in comics. So it's not those kinds of changes that bothered me. It was just like, we're just doing the same story again, man. I'm like, okay, how many more crises on in multiverses and all these other, oh, they're dead. Nope, they're back. Haha, just kidding. I just got tired of it. And I got tired of the baggage that came with it, right? I felt like every single time, and it was especially the X-Men. The X-Men were the worst. And the X-Men still are the worst. You have to have almost like a master's of comic book theology to understand still where like the X-Men are in the current Marvel. The X-Men are their own universe in the Marvel universe, right? It's like niche. And I just kind of got tired of it. And I like to be able to pick up a book and be able to read 5 issues and have a whole arc and love it, and not have to buy 15 issues every week because there's a crossover with A, with a little tie-in from B and an X from C. And do you remember this one from 30 years ago? We're just going to bring this character back real quick, and all of a sudden I got to get out the app. It was the baggage mostly that really kind of turned me off of Marvel, because they've done so many great stories, and I still have the app. I still like to read Marvel comics. I just don't really buy new Marvel comics unless I hear, or DC, unless I hear something amazing. I'm like, dude, like if you don't read this run, you're missing out in life. Okay, I'll check it out when it's a trade, or it comes out on the app. But I'm out of buying moderns in those, and it's just strictly because I like to read, man. I like reading the books, and I just got tired of reading them.
Yeah, I don't think I've read a book in the 2 years we've been back. I mean, I have Dark Knight, the Frank Miller run on a trade paperback I want to read. I got Invasion from DC from the 90s I want to read, but I'm more into just the key books, and find out about the story after the fact, because what drew me back into it was I went back to the LCS near me after years of, I'm in a new town, so I went to this LCS when I moved here, but I hadn't been back in a while, and I just got drawn in at the end of COVID to all the cool stuff on the wall. So I was like, oh man, I remember all this stuff, and I had been watching the movies forever, and I knew the stories because I knew Infinity Gauntlet from the 90s, because I knew the characters, but they change, so they don't change a bunch, but they change enough that it doesn't always help you to read the story to follow the movies, right?
Absolutely.
But the background.
Yeah. They changed it enough to keep it interesting so people that read the books would still want to see the movie. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's a character I remember, but it's not like verbatim for the books, and that's what kind of made me mad. Is like, we'll keep that storyline so I know what to expect when we're coming, when the next Avengers movie comes out and whatnot. But I stuck with it, but I wish, not that I don't have time, but I don't, I guess, to read as much as I'd like. I mean,
I've been every once in a while now when I have some free time, because you can find most comics now, at least older ones, online to read. And I'm a big Silver Age guy, as we talk about a lot on the show. And so I read Fantastic Four #1. So I've been going through, and I made a list of books I want to read, or comics I want to read from back in the day. And I've actually enjoyed that, but I totally feel you on the like, if you've been reading for a long time, it's hard not to get kind of fatigue on the just kind of like same themes and same arcs and same, like, I completely get you with that.
I think we're all Star Wars fans, correct? Right. I mean,
oh yeah.
I'm a fan. You guys are definitely bigger fans than me.
Right. I mean, I can't, the year I was born was the year, New Hope came out. So, I have a little bit, and when my son was born, the last movie was made at the time when they finished the original, trilogy or prequel and trilogy. So there was a tie in there, and then they made 3 more movies and screwed it all up. So there's no more tying anymore. But it was the same arc over and over again, and it never beat the original movies, in my opinion. Some of the characters, like,
well, yeah, nothing has beaten the original 3. Nothing has even come close, in my opinion.
But if you think about then, as a kid in the 90s, when Matrix came out, that was like mind blowing and that was like, like an indie almost, in a sense. It had some similar qualities to Total Recall and Terminator, but they made it their own show that just, blew my mind. It was one of the coolest movies I'd ever seen at the time, and still is. And that's probably the feeling. Maybe I'm just assuming, but the feeling you get from the indies, because it's different. It's a different take.
Yes.
It's not the same arc.
And it's a different take. It's not the same arc. It's the ability to jump into a story, read it from front to back, and enjoy it for what it was, a story. I don't need an opera. I don't need it will never end. It'll go on forever, and new character and
whole universe.
I don't mind that. Every once in a while, it's nice to pick up a novel and read it, and that was it. And it was a great story. And it's kind of what's screwing up Marvel in general right now in the movies. It's just, eventually there's a reason why things come to an end, because then you can start over, right? Let them end and like cut it off, just like, turn off the tap for a minute and let people be hungry then again for these characters to come back. And I get it. It's a money-making machine. Disney doesn't know how to not make money. They're going to make money no matter what. But in my mind, why I love indies is the fact I can pick up a beginning and an end, and I can enjoy an arc. And it's something different too. Some of my favorite comics, from recently don't have superheroes in them. Something That's Killing the Children doesn't have there's no capes. There's no telepathy. There's no, like, you're not pulling things out of the ground with magnetism, and it's refreshing in that way, because it feels a little bit more grounded too. So I'm kind of enjoying. I'm enjoying a little bit of a grounded storyline every once in a while. And it's not that I don't enjoy superheroes. It's the fact I get enough of them all over TV and movies and streaming services. I don't need to buy comics anymore for my superhero fix. I just turn on the TV. Right now, when I want like a story fix, I pick up an indie.
Nice. So, kind of like an analogy to that, like, so JP and I are huge NFL fans, and people will always ask, like, "Oh, Rohan, are you going to watch the XFL or the AFL or these other new leagues that now happen that are after the NFL season?" I'm like, no, I have no interest in watching them. One, I think the quality is quite crap, but other than that, it's like, no, I like the idea that the NFL season is here. I'm into it, and then it ends, and then it's gone long enough where it's, by the time it starts to come back, I'm itching for it.
Exactly.
Right, and it's like, oh man, I'm ready for the season to kick off, and I get excited again. Like, if it was all year round, like, you just get me like, okay, like, there's another game, like, let's do this. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. I love it. The off season gets you interested, because then you hear about the potential trades, and that's the maybe the new movies that's going to come out. Maybe the new character who's going to maybe be cast as this character. All of a sudden that off season is like, I'm a fantasy baseball guy, right? So all of a sudden the off season is just like, holy where are they going to be in the lineup? Who are they going to be batting around? Who's going to be like, who's going to be that? It's that kind of anticipation then of the season coming that really gets it going. And it's been relentless. And so I just kind of get, I don't want to say necessarily bored, but I just don't care as much, right? Like, I cared when we thought we were working towards the Avengers. Oh my God, I cared so much. And now I'm just like, I see another Avengers movie on the horizon, and I'm like, okay. Am I going to see it? Yep. Am I probably going to see it opening night? Yep.
So let me. Am I like?
No.
We'll definitely circle back to the MCU, because I know you guys talk about it a lot. But like, on that note, then, just again from watching your show, I know you're a huge Star Wars fan. So what keeps you engaged in Star Wars then, based on all of it?
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni over Jon Favreau.
Yeah, Dave Filoni.
Wait, who's Dave Filoni?
Dave Filoni is the creator of the Clone Wars
okay.
cartoon, right? Dave Filoni is the guy that's really been overseeing a lot of the real boots on the ground kind of Star Wars creation. Yeah, Favreau is amazing. I love Favreau. I totally do. But I don't think he would have the shows that he's working on right now if it weren't for Filoni and the universe that Filoni created. I mean, let's take a look at some of the characters that we're most enamored with right now. You got Ahsoka Tano, we've got Bo-Katan, we've got all these what were nobodies in Star Wars. Nobody gave a about these extra characters, these extra side pieces, and these are the ones that everybody's like, oh my God, we're talking about clones. And honestly, the prequels, trash if it weren't for the Clone Wars. Personally, like I would not care a rip about episodes 1, 2, and 3 if Filoni hadn't come out with Clone Wars. And you guys are old enough to remember, there was so much backlash with Filoni. Ahsoka Tano, a girl Jedi. Anakin would never have a Padawan. He was if we had the internet the way we had now, the world would have melted. The world would. It was worse. It was worse than the last 2 Star Wars movies. People freaked out. Conventions all over. Girl, and it was just. And now all of a sudden, like she comes back and it's like the Great Hope. And like everybody's just like, oh, it's Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson's gonna be Ahsoka. Everybody's just like, because they gave it time for the story to ferment and for somebody like Filoni to come in and fill in all those blanks, all that stuff we missed. That's 90 hours of Star Wars content, man. 90
JP,
hours.
Did you watch Clone Wars, JP? Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
JP, Rohan, watch Clone Wars and
give it
the first 3 episodes. Yeah, it's animated. It's animated.
And I never took animated to be canon. So that kind of like, well, I'm not going to watch the cartoon. That's why I didn't think the Disney Plus stuff that came out that was cartoon. I was like, it doesn't mean anything, but it did. And it, like you said,
bro, I promise you, it will change your connection with so many different things, because then Rebels all of a sudden matters. Now, a lot of these characters that we're seeing, like a lot of people that I will talk to, like in Star Wars, little circles and things of that nature that aren't Star Wars super fans, so it's like, oh, that Bo-Katan chick's going to be awesome. Like, man, Bo-Katan is a bee at times. She's always after and for herself. Like she was a part of the Death Watch, and I watched her execute families, kids, wives, husbands in the Clone Wars cartoon. And then all of a sudden she unseats her sister in a power move, and then finds out it was for Darth Maul. And then she brings in the Republic to help her unseat Maul, but it ends up turning into the Empire. And then she tries to get that out. She's always been after and for herself. So I like, as soon as she came in on the first episode, she didn't come in to help the Mandalorian get Grogu back. She was along for the ride so she could get the Darksaber. And but it's all that history too. You learn about the Darksaber in Clone Wars. You learn about all these other big things that are really some of the most influential stuff on the current Star Wars universe, and where we're going in these Disney Plus series to come was all from Filoni. This was a man that was tapped by Lucas to be his successor in so many different ways. And Filoni stayed on, as opposed to when Lucas got bought out, he really went his own way because Disney didn't want to go the way he wanted to go. But Filoni stayed. And to me, in Filoni, I trust. I trust his vision. And you can kind of see too, like, I think Jin's gonna be Force sensitive. I do believe that, because we've seen the way that different people are able to wield the Darksaber. And you also see, because Filoni is just a super fan at the end of the day. Filoni's a super fan. So you see when you see other people making comments like Favreau can say like, oh, it's not this or it's not that. You see just like Filoni just get this little stupid smirk on his face sitting right next to it. Like, like, okay, no, that's true. Favreau's an actor. Favreau knows how to lie. Filoni can't fucking lie. He can't do it to save his life. He's a super fan, right? And he got to play with all these toys. And
That's
so
awesome.
this to me is, if I could make any one recommendation that would totally just like that would just, if you really did love those first 3 episodes, you will be you might even be like, oh my gosh, maybe the prequels were the best thing to happen to Star Wars because of what Filoni did with the Clone Wars. I would rank that up there as number 2 to Rogue One.
Oh yeah,
and then
Rogue One is excellent. Rogue One is absolutely excellent. Yeah,
for me, it's a tie between that and Empire. To me, Rogue One is a tie between that and Empire, and then it's the Clone Wars cartoon.
Wow.
And everything else is just fodder.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's kind of like, I am with Star Wars. I kind of hit a point where kind of you had said with reading Marvel books, it's like, and all I've watched really is the movies, and I just kind of think that it's just gotten so. I just feel like at the movies, like they get so lazy sometimes. It's like they know they're going to make $1 billion with this movie that they don't even like try, because it's like it's wild to me that like Star Wars is this universe where they've created a idea that anything that you're only limited by your imagination, right? So I just get so frustrated when they get so lazy. Like, for example, in The Mandalorian, I think it's season 2. What's the episode with the Indian guy from Eternals when he says, that season 2? Oh no, sorry. This is the
you're talking about Kenobi.
Kenobi, yes, in Kenobi. Yeah. So like he's on that planet wherever he is, and they're like, we're locking down all the ports, and like he can't get in. It's like, my gosh, how's he gonna get out of this city? And then like Kumail, that's his name. Kumail, that's the actor's name. He's like, oh, you could just take the shipping route or whatever. It's right there. They're not watching that, and it's just like, guys, why are we getting so lazy with this? It's like Star Wars is especially with Star Wars. It's like, this is a legacy that we've created where smuggling and sneaking onto things is regular. So why do we have to make it so corny when they're like, oh, just use the merchant's port right there? They're not guarding that. Like, why wouldn't they guard that? Like, they should obviously right there. Or like in episode 9, when when they're like, okay, we got to sneak aboard this Imperial ship. And they're like, how are we going to do it? And then the one person's like, wait, I have this coin that grants us access without question on any Imperial ship. And they're like, excellent. And it's like, problem solved. And it's just like, guys, come on.
It's like Marvel with time travel, right? It's kind of like, oh, how are we going to fix it? Time travel. Who's dead? Multiverse. It's just like, there's simple plot tools and like lots of these things. I can say that 100% agree. And Star Wars, Lucas was just like a poem has a rhythm and it repeats, right? And that's what he wanted this opera to kind of be. But unfortunately, I think what Disney gave too much leash to the individual movie creators, like what we're going to be the directors to almost write the movies in some ways. I do believe episodes 7, 8, and 9 are going to get better with time, because I believe Filoni and Favreau will be expanding upon that universe later on. Because I do believe, like, I think some of the worst writing ever in film history was episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Oh,
I hate sand.
100%. 100%.
Like Padme pedophile, and all the other stuff that kind of goes along with it. Terrible writing, but with time, it fermented. We got to see the beauty in it. We got to see the big overarching story. We got to see exposition and expansion, things like Rogue One, the Clone Wars, Rebel, all these other shows that have all taken place before Luke Skywalker and all that time, right? All of a sudden, to make that stuff so much richer, I have a feeling we're going to start to do that. And that's why I think The Mandalorian is the story after Return of the Jedi, right? Starting to really expand out that universe. And I think Star Wars will get better. I think Star Wars will, I don't think it's going to get retconned. I don't think Rey and Grogu are going to get their own show. I think that's just rumor crap. But I do believe they're going to expand on the outer universe, just kind of like they did with Andor. one of the best Star Wars shows I have ever seen. I loved Andor. A lot of people didn't. I enjoyed it 100%. I was captivated the entire time. I was interested. Great acting, and there was not a single lightsaber in it. It kind of
No.
it debunked the theory: is Star Wars without a lightsaber? And it was still Star Wars, and it was Andor, and Andor did a great job.
I'm not gonna lie though. I would be down with some kind of like Jedi origin type, like story, movie, whatever. Like I would be, or like a Yoda origin story. Like I would be all in on that. I will say, just on the notion of lightsabers.
I believe the new show Acolyte that's coming is taking us back 2,000 years, like before the New Republic, before even Old Republic. I believe.
Is that the thing I've heard? That's like it's before there were just 2 Sith and there were like more?
No. Well, I mean, maybe I don't know a lot about it. I just know that the time frame that it's supposed to take place in, and I believe the rule of 2 was about 2,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. So yeah, I'm that Star Wars nerd. I believe, and somebody in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe the rule of 2 only became knowledgeable to Yoda with a Force user that kind of went to the Sith about 200 to 300 years before the Battle of Yavin. Before the Battle of Yavin, because that was how Yoda knew of the rule of 2. There's always 2, no more, no less. And when Qui-Gon was killed, and we were at the funeral pyre, so hello.
We got a kindergartner on the phone, right? On the video.
She's
Did
beautiful.
she just sign in today?
This is one of my twins.
Did she sign into kindergarten day, or which one was had the sign in today?
Wait, the what?
Didn't you put something about someone signing in today to kindergarten or something?
No, I mean she's only 3. So, yeah. My son's 5, so he's gonna start for kindergarten in the fall. So no, I
thought I saw something you posted that was sign-in day or something for the Saint whatever Catholic.
Are you following my brother?
Maybe that's who. Maybe he followed me and I clicked follow, so that must be what it is. Okay.
Yeah, he knows the pod, so he's probably following. So he's probably following you, and that probably bounced. But yeah, that's my brother. That's his daughter.
I was like, okay. Yeah. I just saw Joseph in the last, and I was like, all right, that's so my fault. But
no.
On the Star Wars front, my it's funny you say that things will ferment over time or get better over time. I don't know if Luke Skywalker milking that cow or whatever it was will ever get better in my head. That was such a bad scene. He was such my hero, and he still is a great actor and great as Luke. And I was so happy to see the Luke that I remember from Return of the Jedi come back in The Mandalorian for that last scene. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. And I can go back and when those 3 movies came out, the episode 1, 2, and 3, I was there the first night at 12:01. There was 2 showings at midnight and at 12:01. Got into it, me and my brother, and the credits came down and we were into it. And Darth Maul was awesome, and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and then the rest of the movies were terrible because there was no chemistry between Anakin and Padme. I mean, the 2 of them looked like they didn't never talk to each other, even though they were like secretly romantic behind the scenes.
Crossed lovers somehow, yeah.
But they were not anywhere near romantic on the screen, and I didn't buy it. And I didn't like Count Dooku, like Count Doodoo. I'm like, couldn't you come up with a cooler name than Doodoo? Like it just seemed out there. I didn't like it. And Jar Jar Binks, you can say all that you want, but nothing will ever match the original 3. And I was happy when 7, 8, and 9 came in and started to make the same tech that was from the original Star Wars, because the first 3, George Lucas said, I didn't have the technology to make that, and he made it so didn't look like the original movies. But then when 7, 8, and 9 came back and they had that tie-in, the same lighting, the black and white lighting they had on the one Star Destroyer, the way the computers worked, and then the Mandalorian has that same feel to it. So it makes it feel more like one universe. Those
kind of coming home.
Yeah, those prequels did not do that. But then 7, 8, and 9 were just retelling the same old story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm never going to pretend that they were, fantastic. I just enjoyed them for what they were, which was
Oh
I
yeah.
felt like, which I felt was just trying to capitalize on a couple of still surviving actors left,
Yeah.
to get them in a movie. I feel like honestly, I feel like that was the impetus for making 7, 8, 9 in a lot of ways was
It,
just because, we're seeing the icons pass and everybody's getting older and older and older and older and older. And if we're going to have an opportunity to do something, do we recast these people or do we bring them back? And nostalgia says, well, we're going to sell more tickets if we bring them back as opposed to recasting them. So
from what I heard,
let's
7, 8, 9 were supposed to be each like 7 was supposed to be Han Solo's story. 8 was
Mhm,
going to be Princess Leia's story, with 9 being Luke, or vice versa. And then when Carrie
mhm,
Fisher died, they had to change that up a little bit. From,
mhm,
from what I read, I don't know if that's true or not, but Luke never acted the same that I remember him
mhm.
from Empire and Return of the Jedi. And that's what pissed me off, is that he was just a different guy. Now,
Yeah,
for good reason, I guess. But I wanted
ish.
to see that same Luke come back to, you know, to,
I
to
I missed the Star Wars from the Del Rey books. I don't know if you ever read the old Star
what to
Wars Del Rey
Thrawn
books.
and
Thrawn and the Vong and how much it hurt when Chewie was killed, reading those books and hearing about saving baby Anakin, which was one of the third child of Leia and Han, and the twins Jason and Jaina and Mara Jade. And that Star Wars universe was tremendously well fleshed out and beautiful. And when Disney purchased it, they had to retcon it entirely because they're like, these were such successful books. We can't use these now because these freaking things were so great that everybody would know what the hell the movie is going to be, So let's do something fresh. Let's pull it in. And then you saw them still pull Thrawn from the books, and you're still and rumor has it we're going to get Amara Jade, and we're going to start to see other things still come in from those books, but they're cherry picking it. And that's kind of what they're doing right now with all the stuff Filoni made. They're taking like, oh man, nobody thought this was going to be cool, but it was cool. Let's grab this one back. Let's get this one back. And that's what we're seeing currently in The Mandalorian. We're seeing those side characters that nobody cared about. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in Skeleton Crew. I think we're going to see that tremendously. There's going to be tons of rebels, right? So if you really want to kind of get to know what's going to happen in Ahsoka, there is Rebels, and Rebels was good. Um, I was a highlight Rebels guy. I didn't like getting every single episode and every single detail. Don't get me wrong, but I went into what I knew were the high points and the things I needed to understand, like that last battle between Ahsoka Tano and Anakin. Like, bro, I cried. I don't cry in cartoons, but because I saw the Clone Wars and I saw the way he raised her and all the things he put her through, and then you realize that Anakin was essentially the one that saved her because of the kind of training he put into her and her desire to never give up, and her leaving the Jedi Order and essentially being kind of like Qui-Gon Jinn being a gray, kind of thing. And she grows in such a way that that made me cry. I cried when that scene happened and she faces off against him and she realizes that's not Vader, that's Anakin. This is they didn't know, like before Obi-Wan figured out Ahsoka. Ahsoka was in that same story. She didn't know either. And you just see like the person that was her absolute world and shatter. And so yeah, if I can, I am way too deep Star Wars dork, and I apologize. I'm getting
oh no,
way
that's
way
No,
way
Phil,
way down rabbit holes.
I'm
Way
gonna
down
tell you, like,
rabbit.
you should be getting paid by these guys. Like, I've been kind of out, and I'm like, you're selling me. I'm coming back in. I'll tell you.
Bro, even if you just watch some of the highlights on YouTube just to go and get into it, but getting to know Ahsoka, you get to realize what a big part she's going to be. And supposedly, this entire series is on the premise of her trying to find Ezra. That's the mission that they went after. And we saw the space whales, force user
yep.
things that we saw in the Mandalorian. That was from Rebels. those are the creatures that took Ezra controlled through the Force to get rid of Grand Admiral Thrawn and sent him to the what is it?
Outer Rim.
Outer Rim. Thank you. I apologize. I'm losing words. And rumor has it they're thinking that instead of sending it to the Outer Rim, they actually send it to a different, like a different galaxy per se, right? Not the Star Wars, but a different galaxy where the Force exists, but the Force is more magic, like with the Night Sisters. I don't know if you're familiar with the Night Sisters. They're another creature that came from the Clone Wars and the cartoons, right? And that's where you get like Asajj Ventress and all these other ones. But these are the ones that made Darth Maul. They go through like how they create the Mauls and things like that. They're Force users. They were all influenced by the Night Sisters, and the Night Sisters were essentially like dark magicians. They were definitely dark Force users, but it was almost more magical in sight. And a lot of people believe, and supposedly with these leaks, that Thrawn is going to become basically like this rune god kind of like king over in this universe, making a deal with the Night Sisters, and they create basically like a zombie army to come and invade the current Star Wars universe. And like Ahsoka and Ezra and these guys are the few that know this is coming, and this is where Star Wars is going, right? The Star Wars is going to try and introduce a new kind of Force, a new kind of concept where, somebody's stealing fruit because they just walk by it and throw it in their pocket, or something like that. It's not because it's good or it's bad. It's just like, I have the Force, got that, Force thieves like that, right? So it's a little bit more Star Wars meets Dungeons and Dragons too. So they're kind of trying to expand on the fantasy of it. Like the Force can be used in different ways other than just good guy, bad guy, red lightsaber or blue. They're trying to expand on it. So if that's true, it could be cool. Yeah, or purple, or because you're a bad MF. BAMF, man. Bamf. And I'm not talking Nightcrawler. I love that stuff, and this is the kind of stuff that me and like Kessel Run Comics will be talking about every Thursday now going forward. Is our Star Wars night, recapping the shows. And he's a big Star Wars nut like me, but he's also very entrenched in the current comics side of it too, right? So I know a lot about comics in general, but I didn't read the Star Wars comics. I read all the Del Reys and I did all the other stuff, but I didn't get into the comic book versions of Star Wars. And my boy Mac, he's all in. So we're hoping to have some interesting conversations around that. But yeah, that's.
And you said that show's starting. When is that starting?
Tomorrow is going to be our first episode. First Thursday night.
Like I said, I was born the year Star Wars came out. I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater. Saw Return of the Jedi, and then I've seen them all. I had all the characters. I've sold some of them, but I keep most of them. I read those books you're talking about, and I was so hoping that was going to be 7, 8, and 9. I want to see Thrawn. I want to see that whole story. And I even have Heir to the Empire, the first Thrawn, right next to me here, because I'm expecting him to show up at some point, because that would have been a much better story. And I'm glad
he's going to be
they're
in
able to. Yeah, and they're going to pull that stuff in, like you're saying, to shape this world in a better way than what they did.
And I'm hoping that it's something that I know a lot of people are like, please retcon 7, 8, and 9, but I don't necessarily want that. I want something to expand on it, make it richer, make it better, because I don't want to have to re-go through that, and I don't want Luke and Leia and everybody else to kind of go out and never have had at least one last appearance, kind of situation. So I hope they don't retcon it. That's my opinion.
They did have to recast them somehow, and again, that would be finding someone that looks like them I guess that could work if they want to maybe do one movie with that. Or another story that they could do is there's a story between Empire Strikes Back and Jedi of Luke trying to get Han from that prince,
the Truce of Bakura.
Yeah.
We got Rain Man here on Star Wars.
Sorry.
Hell yeah. That would be a cool story too, to make a movie about that itself, but explain to me retconning, like what is that?
Retconning means like erasing it, saying it never happened.
Remaking them,
Yeah, pretending like it just didn't happen. A lot of people
The
will say
movies
like Disney
themselves.
needs to retcon 7, 8, and 9 so they can have this fresh start going forward, like what's happening with the Mandalorian, and expand on the universe from there. Not have this gap that we know is technically the Mandalorian's happening between Luke being kick ass at the end of Return of the Jedi, and he's still in his heyday, versus the Luke we're going to get in another 10 years, 15, 20 years. They don't want that gap in what's happening in here to not have that impact. So that's what I see there.
Well, I mean, there's enough time for him to make those shows, but um, but I mean, again, you could forget about him.
Yeah.
There's some. Look what they did with the Hulk and Marvel. You take care of that, Rowan. Say,
Yeah.
give me my cup. Give me my cup.
I just closed the door. My dad's taking care of it.
You're good. You're good.
And the hammer down. But I mean, the Hulk. We had 3 different Hulks, right?
Mhm.
And then they funnily, in a funny way, made mention of him in the She-Hulk show, right?
Mhm.
The Ed Norton one. I don't know. Maybe if the Star Wars thing can sort of make a funny reference to Luke milking it somehow, because they need to tell that story. Because I think there's so. If you're going to bring Thrawn in, you need a cool Jedi. Ahsoka can be that. You need. I don't know.
I think if you watch Clone Wars, you'll be like, yeah, Ahsoka can be that fucking badass.
Okay.
Ahsoka
I mean,
could
I
do
love
it.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah,
I think
she was in
But
the one episode of Mando or whatever. She
if
was
you
awesome.
if you give that a shot, and especially then when you see her become Fulcrum, where she becomes, because everybody thought she was dead. But if you watch where it goes in Clone Wars up to Order 66 and like Rex, and all these clones that really truly matter too, and they're all coming back too with Bad Batch and all the other stuff that's going on, man. And when Rex appears, you're gonna see grown ass men like me like freak the frick out. Like if Rex appears in Ahsoka, don't talk to me for days, because I'm going to be on such a high, because you just understand, like, there is 6 days worth of Star Wars to watch. If you were to watch every single movie and every single TV show, it would take 6 consecutive days from front to end to finish. Over half of that time is the Clone Wars cartoon, right? So everywhere Star Wars has ever been, half of that journey is the Clone Wars cartoon. That's how important that show is. And that's where Filoni got his start. That's where Filoni started to play with these characters that nobody else wanted to do. And that's how they got the Mandalorian, right? And that's how Favreau knows, because of Filoni. Favreau knows what he can do with the characters, because Filoni's just like, yeah, no, that character never had that arc. That character never had those power sets. That character could never do this or do that. But this one could, and this one could, and this one could. And that's how we get to see his influence in things like The Mandalorian and these other shows and other parts and pieces. Yes, he had things to do with Kenobi and everything else too, but I enjoyed Kenobi for what it was. I'm losing faith in Marvel, and I'm gaining hope in Star Wars. I'm not gonna lie, just because of the people that are the people that are in charge right now. Favreau did magical things with Iron Man in the creation of the Marvel universe, and I think he's going to do fantastic things over at Star Wars and Lucasfilm, this side of the Disney branch. But I do believe at the end of the day, it's Filoni that is really really the man that kind of helped get it all together and actually make something special that we have to play with now, more so than anything, more so than the things that happened in 7, 8, 9.
I wish I would have watched them. I just never got into the animated part of it, like I said earlier. But you got me hooked to go.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta figure out some time.
I promise you, like I might have to just start a series with you guys where we just go through the episodes and just be like, all right, now we're gonna this week's homework, episodes 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, and 12. They're 20 minutes. The cool thing is too, these were cartoons like years ago as well. So like each episode's like 15, 20 minutes.
Oh,
right. It's not like it's but that's why you're gonna look at, you're like, oh my god, 30 episodes in a season. And you're like, oh well, wait, that's about 7 hours. Okay, over the span of like 2 weeks, that's easy. It's kind of like you binge a few here that night, you binge a few there that night. You're just kind of like And some of the stories totally don't matter. but you'll be surprised how many do, and you're going to be surprised how many characters like Cad Bane showing up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you've got like, and you're going to see introductions to all kinds of bounty hunters, different kinds of droids. Why did they matter? You know, last time we saw IG-88 was in the, you know, Return of the Jedi, not Return, Empire Strikes Back, right? And all you did was see him stand there. His head didn't move or swivel, but you get to see these battle droids like kidnapping senators in the Clone Wars and like that, like years ago. And all of a sudden it was like, let's put him in the Mandalorian. Because again, character nobody cares about, but Filoni expanded on and showed what they could do and what their power sets were.
That's like, you know, not, I don't want to get off the Star Wars topic just yet, but James Gunn did that with DC and taking those D-level characters and C-level and making a whole cool universe out of them. And that's, now that you said that, that makes me even more interested to go back, because I like taking something that no one ever cared as much about. Like Boba Fett wasn't a big deal in the first, he was in the first episode. If you watch episode 4, that Jabba scene, if you go back, but he was cool looking then, and they made a cartoon about him, the holiday special. And then he's in that show and he got popularity. I mean, he was significant in that show. IG-88 wasn't, but take that guy and bring him ahead, do something cool with him, grab, Captain Rex. He was a big part of that. I mean, my kids had the Legos of Captain Rex all over the place. I could probably make 10 of them from all the Legos laying around from them, but they were into it, and they were into the Lego side of it. And I thought the cartoons were for kids, and I wish I would have watched them.
I think
they didn't watch.
I think you'd enjoy it. I think you'd enjoy it. Just take it for what it is. It's Star Wars raw, right? It's just trying to, what it was trying to make the Clone Wars better. They knew.
Yeah,
they knew. They knew the writing was weak. They knew the writing was weak.
So on Disney Plus, if you go into the Marvel section and you scroll down the menus, they have like phases 1, 2, and 3 in chronological order. Do they do that on the Star Wars one? Do they give like a?
I don't know. I watched them in chronological order. I can't tell you for sure. I haven't gone back and revisited them since they left Netflix and went to Disney, right? That was the last time I watched the Clone Wars. Was when it was on Netflix. So, it would make sense. Yeah. It would make sense, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. I mean, hold on. I'll look. My TV is right over there. I'll take a look real quick. Just move over to hit the Disney Plus button on the remote, and I can't show you on the. Well, maybe I can. Is it camera 2? Is camera 2 point over there? Yeah. Okay. Camera 2.
Wow. Camera 2.
It's fancy.
Sorry. Well, I have a studio for. That's what I do for work. But yeah. So don't comment on any of the crap in my room.
I'm trying to figure out what we're looking at here.
Oh, in the bottom right, that's my TV. I'm sorry.
I got the bottom right, on the left there. What do we got there? That design, like some kind of tower.
It's a lava lamp. I think it's a lava lamp.
Oh, that is the Daily Bugle Lego set.
Ah.
Here, let me hold on. Oh, give me a second. I gotta turn on the light to it.
Star Wars has a very cool opening to all their shows now with that.
Yeah, I think.
That is pretty cool. I mean, Avengers, Marvel has a great one too, but they made it. That's what draws me in, like the old days of HBO. When you guys remember that? You watch HBO and they would come flying in, and that draws you in.
I agree, dude.
Look at that.
So that's some of my junk.
Nice.
So okay, originals, The Mandalorian, movies. And then series and specials, Bad Batch. Okay, Star Wars in timeline order.
There you
Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars cartoon.
There it is. I saw.
Revenge of the Sith, Bad Batch, where that's going on. Then you get into Solo, Kenobi, Rebels, Andor, Rogue One, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Resistance, and then there you go. All of them right there in order.
Great.
Sorry, I can't move the TV. I can't move it down a little bit more, but yeah, it's yeah.
Now, question I have as a bigger Star Wars fan than I am and anyone I know, so you got the answers right.
Sorry.
I
didn't mean to be that.
No.
I'm like
I was out of it for too long. I'm
Phil, you are the one true nerd king. This is your
maybe in Star Wars, I guess, but
you gave me a new hope to get back into Star Wars. So, But the Obi-Wan show, okay, so I watched that. I was a fan of Obi-Wan. I thought he was cool. But my favorite character besides Boba Fett was Darth Vader. I thought he was a badass, right? Rogue One scene at the end of Rogue One was awesome. Now,
Best
when those two
villain
fought
ever.
in Obi-Wan, that shouldn't have happened, right? Because the way Obi-Wan talks in A New Hope, he said, I was once the learner, Darth Vader said, I was once a learner, now I'm the master. So how many times it acted like they hadn't fought again since episode 3 on that planet, right? So
yeah, and they also messed up stuff with Leia on that timeline. She wasn't supposed to know Obi-Wan when she was young. Like in
yeah, that's what I thought.
we assumed.
well, no,
You were my father. My father spoke so well of you. You helped my father, things of that nature. But I don't know what the future has on that. But I don't believe Filoni and Favreau would have let that necessarily happen without some kind of further explanation, because it sounds like we're getting a season 2 of Kenobi. So something else is going to go on here. I don't know for sure. But when it comes to that inaccuracy, I feel it. I wondered from it. I just kind of said to myself, I'm just happy to see Ewan McGregor back, so I'm okay with it. I'll be totally honest. I'll be totally honest. I mean, I know that there's, unfortunately, the Star Wars fandom has become very toxic too. Star Wars fans have become like, we used to complain about Star Trek being the real jerks and the super nerds and at least Star Trek people can get along with each other, bro. Like Star Wars fans now have to be like rabid and hate each other at different times, or like, you're not a purist or whatever. At any rate, I digress. I'm one of those Star Wars fans that was so excited to see Hayden Christensen come back as Vader, and especially Ewan McGregor. The entire time, I didn't care what he did. If he could have just said hello there, I might have like wet my pants, let alone, seeing him walk up to, Luke at the end of that and like hand him the starfighter model. I mean, there was tie-ins and there was differences. Yes, 100%. But that was the time where he realized Vader also, that was the time when they said Vader killed your father. That's like when Anakin said, like, Anakin's dead because I killed him. You did not fail me, Obi-Wan. That's just it. That's what Vader says. You did not fail me, Obi-Wan. Anakin died because I killed him. And that's exactly what Obi-Wan tells Luke. So I mean, there's going to be, I don't know, maybe I'm just ignoring it and I'm okay with it. So I never really looked into a bunch of the other parts and pieces, but I was just like that awestruck of just getting to see Ewan McGregor again, because I love Ewan McGregor. I love him since Train Spotting, when we were kids. Just that Ewan McGregor. I've always loved him as an actor, and him being Obi-Wan Kenobi to me is even better than Sir Alec Guinness. I'm there with it. So yeah, I was okay with Kenobi. And to be honest, that was the more badass Vader too that I've been waiting for in a lot of ways, because we went from the prequels where everything was like super crazy, amazing swordplay and things of that nature. And then we go to, I show my daughter 4, 5, and 6, and she'd be like, what the fuck happened? Like, as opposed to like, like, it's ridiculous. The difference, right? It's ridiculous. And then, but like, then talking about like the digression of Obi-Wan from not getting to use his lightsaber for decades, and Anakin's been doing nothing but getting better and stronger. And that's the guy we see in Rogue One, right? The guy that's just like pulling people up from the ceiling to the floor and flopping them in half. And that Vader was playing with Obi-Wan. He was having fun. He was enjoying kicking the shit out of his old master. So to me, that was, and I loved seeing him rip the entire, like stopping that ship from taking off.
Yeah.
Pulling it back down and ripping off the entire side. I was just like, whoa, and then there goes the other ship, and he was just like, damn it, that was cool. To me was the Vader I'd been waiting for.
Heck yeah, that's the one we saw in Rogue One, and they brought it back in that. But he basically kicked Obi-Wan's ass, and the way they made it sound in episode 4 was that Obi-Wan kicked his ass, which was on that lava
Mustafar.
planet,
Mustafar.
and which was a horrible fight scene. I still think it was terribly done. Could have been done so much better. I hated the way they did it, and I couldn't stand Anakin because he was a whiny bitch throughout the first three, episode 1 through 3. He was worse than Jar Jar, because you imagine the Darth Vader that you were just talking about, that's pulling ships down from the sky, ripping people around, and crunching people just by, just the anger, like the Punisher anger that he had. And he was just a little bitch. And I just couldn't take it. I like, how does that guy become that guy? Right?
Yeah.
Like, serial killers are like, doing weird things as kids that they become something bad. And Vader didn't look like that. Not that I want to see that, but I'm just saying, like, you didn't see that bad streak in him. You just saw this little bitch that was worried about his, his wife dying.
This broken kid, man. He was broken. He didn't know up from down, left from right. And if Qui-Gon, the battle of the fates is so pivotal, because if Qui-Gon lives, Anakin's different. Anakin probably doesn't turn to the dark side, because Qui-Gon's not that kind of teacher. Qui-Gon's a totally different teacher. Qui-Gon was ready for somebody like Anakin, and Qui-Gon knew what Anakin was. Obi-Wan didn't. So in the Battle of the Fates, the real thing there isn't about Darth Maul in the battle. The battle is who's going to raise Anakin, because the fate of the universe rides on that.
And that's
the outcome of who lives and who dies there.
Huh.
That's the importance of the episode 1. And because Qui-Gon dies, the only person that understood what Anakin was. And Anakin looked at him as a father. Anakin looked at him as a savior. You saved me. And all of a sudden he gets passed to the kid on the ship that met him moments before. And it's just like, who the fuck is this kid? We're just picking up strays? Like, oh, we got a Gungan and a kid now? What the hell? And didn't want him. But he took it as a dying wish. Like, Kenobi wasn't that freaking noble to take on Anakin. Kenobi felt like, well, I promised him, so I'll take the kid, right? And that is the most pivotal moment in Star Wars. And yes, Anakin was the chosen one, because at the end, even though he fell, he came back and he took out the Emperor. He took it out. He got rid of the Sith. He Harry carried himself by throwing himself at the Emperor to essentially die to save his son. And that was the extinguishment of the Sith. Now, we knew from the books too, there was cloning and shit like that. But at the same time, he fulfilled his destiny of bringing balance to the Force, because the Jedi were too big and unwieldy. The Jedi had lost their way. Even according to Yoda, we can't see things anymore, man. We're too big. Like, we aren't the Jedi what we used to be. We're a political tool now. We're police.
Oh, yeah, right.
We're not peacekeepers. We're police. We're sent in to do what the Republic wants. And he nerfed them, got them down to nothing. And then at the same time too, took out the one guy that was making the big power play, which was Palpatine, and he brought balance to the Force. And
I didn't know episode 1 could have some redemption, but Phil has done it.
Sorry, dude.
Well,
Darth Maul. Apologize.
Darth Maul made that episode, but what you're saying now, that my
made
kid,
it a lot more important.
Yes, my kid, that song, the Duel of Fate song, my kid and his buddy in kindergarten did a little show for and they did the whole lightsaber scene on stage, and I was like, and now it just showed up on my Apple Music today when I was driving around. It said Duel of Fates, and I was like, and then you said it today, so I didn't realize that's what it meant by fate. So that's pretty interesting.
It was a Duel of Fates.
If you watch New Hope again and imagine in your head what Obi-Wan's talking about and what the Jedi looked like, and what I imagined it to be was nothing that episode 1, 2, and 3 end up being, right?
Yeah.
So how you're saying it now with the deepened part of it as a fan, that makes it a bigger thing. But I was just like, I was disappointed with what I imagined the world to be. I imagine a bunch of Jedis in black outfits like Luke was in Return of the Jedi, just fucking people up. And then they were flying in planes
with a lightsaber.
They were lightsabers, but they were like, oh, let's just hop in this plane. And how was Anakin a great fighter pilot? Like, you never saw him do any crazy stuff in the movies, as cool as it as Obi-Wan talks about in Episode 4. Right? I imagine it would be this like Maverick and Goose flying through the galaxy, and it was like he's some bitch who's crying over this woman, and then he's not even flying. He's in like he's not even the clones are doing all the work. I just imagine like
I think Lucas did a bad job writing the episodes. I did, but that's where Clone Wars comes in, and you see an Anakin that is a great pilot pulling off these crazy maneuvers, becoming an admiral that's taking things with his clones very seriously. And it also too, like, what is the importance of the clones? And these are people too, they're actual people. So we're talking about clone rights, and we're talking about, well, oh, they die, well, we'll just get more clones. No, but these are personality. Each one of them is different, a different personality, right? And what's the weight of the Jedi losing a clone? These are their friends too, right? This
right.
is
Not droids.
it adds a very a lot of depth to it. So I would leave it as that. But I think you would enjoy what you see, especially of the Jedi from the Clone Wars. And you'll get to see like Plo Koon, and you'll see a show like Ayala, and there's so many different cool Jedi, including like Boba trying to put out a hit on Mace Windu for cutting his dad's head off, right? So we're getting all the bounty hunters in there, and all the craziness that comes from the bounty hunters you're going to see in Empire Strikes Back and stuff, and like what's the beef between the Wookiees and I'm not gonna shut up. But I think you'd enjoy it. I think you'd enjoy it. As a Star Wars nerd, it's the Del Rey books of what the current Star Wars universe is. It just got super deep, super rich, and you had some fun. But you got to give it a few episodes. The first ones are kind of hokey. I won't lie. The first ones are kind of hokey, but they pick up.
Now that it's all on streaming, I mean, it's easy to find stuff. So
you can just do it in between things, man. It'd just be like, oh, I got like 5 minutes. Let's go watch a little piece of it here. But then all of a sudden, once you're like into a couple of episodes, you could be like, where'd that last hour go? I'm pretty sure, because all of a sudden it's like new episode.
Yeah.
Like, dun, 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 the kind of thing. It's just like it's over all of a sudden, and then Clone Wars, boom, new episode. It was great.
Yep,
it was great.
We did that with Game of Thrones. We hadn't watched Game of Thrones until 2020, and then you're talking 8 seasons, an hour-long episode. So it was like that was like a month-long undertaking, if not 2. So if this is like a couple days, then I can do that. I can find the time to fill in 20-minute episodes.
You'll just easily just put parts and pieces of it in there. But I promise you, all of a sudden you're going to look at some of the new series and stuff that's coming out. You're going to be like, I know that now. Now I get it. I promise you'll have that moment.
Yeah,
I promise.
I might watch one tonight, because I'm that's one thing that was lacking. I was such a Star Wars fan. I mean, again, I've sold most of my G.I. Joe away, but I've kept the Star Wars just because of that connection. But I don't collect the comics, and I watch the movies, but I was like watching Matrix 2 and 3. I was like, this sucked. Like the first one was so awesome, and then you guys messed it up. And I felt it about episodes 1 and 3 and 7, 8, 9, because that story you're talking about with Thrawn was the way to go. So again, they're fixing it. And there's many ways that they fixed it. So I'm good. I'll be able to watch that and get
I'm
back
excited to
into
see where we can still go with it. I'm excited to see
Oh,
where
yeah.
we can still go with it. But yeah, I'm actually kind of like getting into, this is gonna sound crazy, but I'm actually kind of getting into like Lego keys now. Like, believe it or not, like the first appearances of different Lego characters are worth a lot of money, right? Like this is the first Boba Fett, right?
Now, how do you know that that's the first one? Like, is there a marking on it somewhere that you'll know that, or
The backpack. This is the only one
Okay.
with the backpack that has a jetpack attached to it. And obviously there's things inside the Lego that you can look at, for looking for the actual like Lego name and the boots and things that I got to black out my face to make my camera zoom in on it. But at any rate, this is $1,800.
holy shit?
Damn.
This is the Cloud City Lego Boba Fett. It came with the Cloud City set. It was the first like big Star Wars set.
Do you got to send that into
Death Star.
CGC to get graded?
They don't have those yet. They don't do grading yet. They don't do grading yet. But like the first Ahsoka Tano has gone up like 127% in the last year. But the cool thing is about Legos, Legos have never gone down in value, ever. They don't dip. And I say that because also the largest drug busts in Interpol history was tracked with the way they were laundering money. And
Through
I don't know
Legos.
if you've heard about this, but they were shipping Legos. They would go out and they'd buy Legos, trains full of Legos, and they would ship that around Europe, and that was their money. That was their assets. Because you could take it into a Target and exchange it for cash in a coupon. You could take it to a convention and sell it for twice its value because it had a character A, B, C, D in it. Or you could take it to your kids and not have to get them Christmas gifts that year because they would freaking love them, right? And Legos are worldwide, and they're not stuck by language barriers. It's number one, number two, number three, number four, and it's all just mapped out on there. You don't need to, okay, is that the Spanish version or the French version or the English version? Nope, it's one, it's two, it's three, and it's in those step by steps. So Legos are worldwide.
I
And
love Legos.
I'm just telling you,
How many of
take a
those
look.
I
And,
threw
and
out?
if you want to see something crazy, go to eBay and type in SDCC Lego exclusives, and you're going to see $20,000, $30,000 for different Lego characters, like the Miles Morales that was supposed to get released during COVID. Yeah, I'm doing a show on Lego characters, by the way.
I love it. I'm gonna definitely
I'm
watch
doing an
that.
episode on it, but I just previewing it up, just teeing it up, talking about Star Wars. It all started with this little guy right here that I bought at a Lego convention when my daughter was 4. We went to a Lego convention and I got it for $40. And my wife was just like, "That's crazy. Why would you pay that much for it?" I bought that, and I got this Deadpool character, right? And this was after Disney recalled him because they didn't realize how sketchy Deadpool was. But at any rate, I bought him for $40. And I was talking about it with Theo. And we're just like, I wonder how much it is, and just looked it up on eBay. It was $1,800.
Damn.
Stupid.
Damn.
Stupid.
On that note, Phil, real quickly, should we talk about your show, Comics and Chaos? Real
yes,
quick.
Please.
It's funny that I think it was your last episode was on raffles and mystery boxes, correct?
Yes.
So what's funny is that what you guys talk about, JP and I often laugh about, is those ridiculous raffles where it's like Journey into Mystery 83, 10 spots, $1,500. And we're like, who is putting $1,500 into these things to just maybe get that is just, and so we laugh about it all the time. So when you guys did this episode, I was like, oh, this is funny. Like, it's funny that we're not the only ones thinking like this.
No, you're not, man. You're not. There's a big community of it. I see Legos in your hand. Hey, check out that Ahsoka. Oh, yeah. That I think is like $175. You might want to make sure you got the right lightsabers. You might.
I do. Like I said, I got a Captain Rex face, but he's on a different body. So I just
yeah. I would take a look for the character bodies and see if you can find them. I think you'd be surprised.
The room I'm in now was my kid's toy room, and I used to clean this with a shovel because there was toys everywhere. Yep. And I didn't think any of the Lego stuff. I kept the Star Wars stuff, as you can see, but I put up my toys now, and I don't think I threw them away, but trying to find them may be pretty difficult right now. So now you made me upset. I've thrown out so much money throughout my life.
Yeah, bro, I'm there. I just started learning about it. I only discovered it by accident when I like I said, that Boba Fett character, because I'm a Star Wars nerd, and when I saw a Boba Fett Lego, there wasn't any Boba Fett Legos at the time besides the Cloud City one, and somebody was selling it loose, and I was just like, I could either spend like $800 at the time for the Cloud City, or I could spend $40 and get this Boba Fett. Yeah, and now it's the reason why it's so expensive. It's just because of that damn character.
Yeah, if you go to there at shows I went to 10 years ago, we have a Steel City Con that's in Monroeville, PA, right outside of Pittsburgh, and there was guys that had like shelves, like clear shelves full of Legos they made, and I was like, look at this stuff, man! And my kids were into Legos, and I don't think they were charging $40 for stuff, and there might have been, and that's probably why we didn't buy them. But I was like, look at this stuff, and hindsight should have known to keep them. Damn.
I'm just saying, Lego keys, keep an eye out for it. It's not taken off yet. It's not something a lot of people, the only people that really know about it are the people that really collect Legos.
Or the people that watch our show.
Yeah.
Or the ones that watch this show now. Yeah.
There you go. You
Yep.
got you guys are lucky who are watching. I tell you that right now. You guys are hearing. We're
Super
printing gold
secret,
here. We're
guys.
printing money here.
Well, while the money is kind of coming out of comics at the moment, check out your Lego keys. Check out your
Yeah.
Lego keys. And
Yeah.
there's not as many of them. They're a little bit rare. So
Yeah,
food for thought.
that's interesting.
But at any rate, yeah.
Take,
No, I
take us back to
apologize.
the show though. Like what got you guys to start it? Where do you hope it goes? That kind of thing, real quick.
So, like I said, I got started a couple years ago in Instagram. And Theo became a friend through connections, mutual connections over time. We met in person at San Diego Comic-Con. Had a great time. We had been chatting on the phone for a good year before that, but we met at San Diego Comic-Con, and Theo had been, to his credit, pushing me to get to YouTube. He's just like, Phil, you do long form content all the time. You got all the stuff, parts and pieces. Why the hell aren't you doing a YouTube channel? Like, I'll hang out with you once in a while. Like, you don't have to, because I always say, like, I don't like to do things alone. I don't want to do it by myself. He's like, you'll get guests, people will join. He's like, I'll join you once in a while, kind of thing. And then finally it was Phil, I'm going to do this YouTube thing, and you need to do this YouTube thing. Let's freaking go. And it was just like, yep, that's what I needed. I needed a co-pilot because I hate doing shows alone. I don't like doing it. I've been working on it, and you're going to see me doing episodes by myself.
Yeah, I've seen like the
news
daily
updates.
chaos. I've seen you do.
Yeah, we're bringing that back again next week. I've had a little bit of trying to get this Star Wars show off the ground. I took a hiatus the last 2 weeks, and we've had some big interviews that I've been doing some pre-records with. And they all want to do it at the same time, 7:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm trying to get back to it, but I will be working on that because it's a betterment for me as a host and being able to do things collaboratively. But Theo's been doing that all of his time. He's been a salesman doing solo shows all the time. So he's fine. Phil needs to work on it.
Yeah, we're actually interviewing Theo in a month.
Yeah. He said so. He's just like, oh, tonight's your night. He's like, yeah. I was like, I wanted to come, but I was obviously just went not Wednesday. Yeah. But when we're taping this, but I can say that it was the impetus of the time that we got to start to spend after San Diego. We decided to roommate at Chicago, C2E2, and we had a blast. The best
Was this
fun
last year?
had. Yep, last year we decided.
I think I saw the
together.
pictures of that stuff. You guys were like with Comic Tom and other group.
Ridiculous. Yes, we were.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Everybody. There wasn't anybody we weren't with. It was ridiculous, and we were out until like 4 or 5 a.m., 6 a.m. We didn't go to bed some nights. I mean, it was just nonstop nerding out, hanging out with people, talking about comics 24/7 for all this time at C2E2. And then we knew we had to do New York together. We did New York together the exact same way. Brought in our friend Godly, Alexi. And this year we're doing C2E2, and we're doing it with our friends Jeff, Golden Age Guru, and he's going to be one of our roommates, as well as Nigel, Desired Comics, and my videographer Pashma Ali. He's going to be joining us. So the 5 of us are going to be in these 2 rooms at C2E2.
Awesome.
And we're going to document the hell out of that entire thing, man. That's why we got a videographer, photographer coming with us. So it's going to be all content all the time, and hopefully be able to kick out some stuff from C2E2. Nice. But that's the goal. That's the goal.
That's how I got in. I watching YouTube. I found Comic Tom, and I was like, this guy is awesome. Like, I mean, the show part of it, and then I saw Theo came on to Elite, and I was like, he looked famous just by when he showed up on the show. I'm like, where'd they get this guy from? Is this Keanu Reeves' brother or something? I'm like, where'd he come from? So I thought he was an actor or something.
Yeah, Theo was doing auctions for about as long as Elite had been, right? But he was just doing them for himself. He's just selling his own books, So Theo had built up a great following, and I think that's what attracted Ali to him. Elite's amazing, and I love Ali. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life are from the Elite family. Very lucky to know any of them, let alone be a topic of conversation, of help from them at times too.
Yeah. I mean,
so
to be connected with those guys is awesome.
Yeah, they're great. But Comics in Chaos really came from the conventions, and Theo and I just being like, okay, we're going to do it. And then we put it off for a long time, man. We were planning on starting it while we were in New York. We just kept on putting it off and like, okay, New Year. And then the New Year came like a week out. Like, do we postpone again? We're like, nope, we're just going to freaking do it. Fly by the seat of our pants. And, that's what happened. So we're getting better. We're trying to learn something new each episode, and really trying to embrace the live aspect of this. And hopefully, it'll continue to grow. But we'll see. People like us, people don't. I'm gonna keep on trying though. So
yeah, no, I enjoy it. Just, I mean, you guys talk about stuff that JP and I talk about, and it's great. Yeah, no, I
you guys got almost 800 subs now, I think, on it. Last I saw, maybe more.
No, I think we're at like 740, 750 as of this morning when I looked last.
And you just started this
about 2 months ago. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. But we've been hustling and trying to get some.
That's what I mean. You guys got great recognition that when you do the show, you just brings the fans right out to it, because there's a nice connection between the group you're talking about, Elite and all that you guys built, and now you're now people will follow who they like. And
yeah, I mean, awesome. we've been blessed. I've got Theo and I both have Elite connections. I'm social media manager with Cover Price. Obviously I was a spokesperson with KRS for a period of time, but I still spend a lot of time with them as a family and body. But we've been able to meet a lot of really cool people because of those things. So, you're going to see lots of people from Cover Price appearing on the show, because those are my friends. Those are people I talk to each day, and with Theo, it's especially the people from Elite and Whatnot Wednesdays, right? So he's a part of those teams. And so those are good. Like Gem Mint will be on this Friday.
Nice, yeah.
Well, not this Friday, this Sunday. So we're gonna be talking statues and getting into that and trying to understand more about it, because I don't know a lot about statues. So it's good education. But we've been blessed with cool friends, and like meeting you guys right now, right? So I mean, like this is the blessing of this community, and having these conversations and then getting to share them with others. And that's really the main thing, is we're all human. Like a lot of people on the internet, everybody's got a hater, everybody's got a troll, everybody's got, they like this about this person, they don't like that, or buy this or don't buy that. And all these, everybody's yelling at you to do things. And I think everybody forgets that we're all people. We're all human beings. And we're all out here because we all have a similar passion. And that's really what our show is at its essence about. It's about the people that make up the community, and that's what we want it to be. We want it to be a community driven thing, and that's why we have different guests every single week. There's going to be a few that start to reoccur, like Mac with Kessel Run. He's going to be a reoccurring guest because we're specifically talking Star Wars, and the only person I know that knows a hell of a lot more of the Star Wars than me is Mac. I mean, he makes me look like a freaking idiot every time we talk. Well, actually, it's not. I'm just like, all right, we're doing stuff together because it's going to get crazy.
Yeah. That's what we've enjoyed the most too, right? And we have a few episodes where we talk about different things, but like easily the most enjoyable episodes to do and to listen to, I feel, are the interviews where we get to meet people, talk to them, learn about them, hear their story. It's fantastic.
Because everybody knows more than me, right? Everybody's got a different thing that they know more about. Like you're going to know a lot more about Silver Age than I am, because I'm a modern guy, right? And you're going to know a lot more about A, B, C, and D as well, because you're into these different things as well. We all have different talents and different strength points. So spending time with people that actually know more than you in different areas is what makes you better, and it makes you more well-rounded and excited, and it makes those friends important. You got somebody to lean on and be like, this book comes across my desk, like, well, I know a couple of guys, I should talk to them first, because I don't know shit about this, and that's what makes this a community, dude. So yeah, I'm that hippy dippy guy, which is weird, because the last few episodes I've been the angry nerd the last couple of times. I hate this Punisher thing.
Did someone come up with a nickname for it? Because you were talking about how you want to outbid people just because like of spite or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think it was Brian McClay from Beyond Wednesdays, which is like, where's the Bizarro Phil? Like this is angry. This is Bizarro Nerd King, because he's been so mad all the time. I'm usually the happy, excited one. Theo's been loving it. He's just like, I'm just like, I don't have to be the angry guy right now. He's like, this has been great. I've just been able to sit there and smile and be like, yeah, I don't care. Phil's mad for me today. It's okay.
How did you get?
I think I'm gonna post that meme of Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal, and I'm gonna be Nick Cage looking angry, and Theo's gonna be laughing because he doesn't have to be the angry one on the show today, kind of thing, as Pedro Pascal. Probably gonna do a meme on that sometime soon. But yeah.
Now, did you get outbid on something? Is that what I saw that or somebody, you're one of your buddies did that?
I that's just me making memes that matter to the
Oh,
community. You know,
okay.
I mean, sometimes it's personal. Usually it's not. Usually I just see something funny and I say to myself, and that's like my social media thing, right? Like that's how I got my account. That my account was me being silly and me speaking to our niche, taking things that are popular and speaking to our niche. And I would just twist stuff into making it funny for us as opposed to, oh, that must be cool for an influencer, but it doesn't mean to a comic book collector. Like, well, okay, if I pose this question on top of it, all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, I feel that all day.
Yep.
You know, and I think the one that was for a collector was like getting outbid on something or bidding somebody out
Breaking
on it
Bad.
was, yeah, I can't remember what somebody had used on it, but it was like, I'm the best. It was something to do with sports. It was a sports meme, and I'm just like, oh, I can use that with bidding because it's competitive. It makes
Hmm.
sense in our niche, and I just rescope it, and that's really what working in social media is speaking to our niche, speaking to
Yeah.
the things that matter to the people that you're trying to matter to. And I've run out of ideas some days of like putting myself on camera and doing things like that. So I'm kind of leaning on the memes right now because then I can focus on the content I'm making for YouTube because I just don't have enough time to make original content like I used to for Instagram. I'm leaning on, okay, I'm going to scroll for 15 minutes, find something that looks cool, and I'm going to rescope it to my audience. And that's what I do.
Nice.
That's why at least the last 2 months especially, it's been because I'm trying to spend time here, get better at this.
And that's I don't know which one drives the other one. I think one morphs into the others. I've seen people that go from one to the other, and the YouTube just takes off, and vice versa. But
Mhm.
um, when I got downtime, I used to. My kids were always YouTube people. They'd put on whatever the heck they were watching on YouTube, and I'd hear people screaming, and I'm like, "What are you watching?" And now
Mhm.
my wife comes in, she goes, "Who's on YouTube now? What comic book crap are you watching?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Comic Tom," or that's future past collect. All these people
Yep.
I'm watching are just over it all
Comics
day long. So
Explained and
yeah,
Reggie collects and
It's
Reggie, I
yeah.
still love Reggie.
just real quick. It's kind of funny you say that, JP. Just like, so I've obviously none of my friends in Seattle here are comic book people, right? So all my comic book friends I've made online, and so like JP's become one of them, for instance. And like we were looking at a Hulk 181, and he called me the other night. And my wife Brienne was like, "Who are you talking to?" I didn't recognize that voice. I was like, "Oh no, that's JP 85." And then we become good friends with Manu from the 9.9 newsstand.
Menu's
And
amazing.
yeah, and he called me like 2 nights in a row. We had two different things to talk about, and we were talking on the phone. And she's like, all of a sudden, you're like talking to all these people I've never met, or what is going on over there?
I
It's
know.
like
Who you
kind of the
texting
same
now?
thing.
I hear
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
because everyone I know is on the West Coast, so it's all
Yeah.
like texting at midnight. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Talking to my girlfriend."
Theo hates texting, but that's because he's working all the time and he's got 3 little ones to take care of, so his hands are always busy, so he can't text the same way. Like for me, I hate talking on the phone.
Oh, same. Yeah.
I hate talking on the phone, but and Theo knows that, and he still calls me 5 or 6 times a day, and we will talk for 45 minutes to an hour almost each time. Because we're talking about shows, we're going through ideas, sharing opinions, like who should we get on for a guest this week? What pre-record do we need to? Who am I working for? As trying to work over on a PR because I work in media. That's kind of what I do for a living as my main job. This is my for funsies, right? So like I'll use my press credentials to talk to so and so and try and get them on for whatever it may be, or do a pre-record, or things of that nature. So, and at the same time too, Theo knows a lot of these other people, big power players, because he's in those families. So we're always debating like, okay, who are we doing this week? Okay, we're gonna try and
Yeah,
talk to
who's the
so and
first
so, or
guest you bring
yeah.
on, and does
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what we kind of debate and go back and forth with, but we talk about that stuff daily. So yeah, Theo's kind of like base. Theo's like family to me, in all honesty. And don't ever play this part in the recording. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely I mean, I don't think the only person I talk to maybe more than Theo is my daughter, perhaps. You know, it's crazy. But everybody knows when Theo calls and it's like, I'll be back. I'm walking upstairs.
45 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
What's up, dude?
Phil, this was awesome. Thanks for coming on and talking to us. And we would
Thank
love
you
to
for
have you
letting
on
me hang out, guys.
Yeah,
I've
we
been
definitely want to have you on again in the future.
Yeah.
Like,
anytime, man. Anytime.
Yeah.
You get a cancellation, you guys just want to go and talk about something, just be like, dude, you doing anything? Probably not. So, you know, just give me a holler. I'm always down to clown. I enjoy it. And I enjoy these kinds of conversations too, because I learn things, I make new friends. You can't beat that. That's the best payment possible for spending your time. A lot of people are just like, oh, don't you spend a lot of time at that? Like, you don't understand. Like, my life gets richer every single time I do these things. So yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah,
I totally
Anytime.
enjoyed the time, and we say we can go on for hours with stuff, and
I've got a family downstairs that better see me for 15 minutes or I'm gonna get killed.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm in the same boat. So
yeah.
So Phil, thanks for coming on today. I enjoyed it. I'm going to be watching the Clone Wars for the next couple of days and getting caught up. And the next time we talk, I'll be more knowledgeable.
We're gonna talk.
Yes.
We're gonna really talk. We're gonna really talk, JP. I'm gonna. We're gonna. You make sure you tell me when you're watching those, and we can have some little nerd out sessions. I am down for it. You guys might have to join us on one of our Thursday shows with Kessel Run. Maybe we can do like a Clone Wars flashback kind of.
How's that show going to be live?
Yeah, it's
live on YouTube. All right, I'll be
live
watching
on
tomorrow.
YouTube every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and that's going forward into perpetuity. It's a Star Wars show. Theo will be there a lot, but really, but Theo's also still learning Star Wars too. In some ways, he's definitely knows Star Wars, but he I consider him the Marvel expert. He considers like an X-Men guy, and he considers me the Star Wars guy. So, and having Mac on is just like, whoa. So, you know, it's gonna be fun, but we're gonna definitely be having a lot of other Star Wars guests on. And since there's so much Star Wars content coming this year, I mean, you got Young Jedi, we've got Bad Batch and Mandalorian right now. We've got Visions coming back for season 2. We've got Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka. I mean, we got like 7 different series happening over this year. There's nothing but Star Wars to talk about. 100%.
Right.
It's gonna be awesome.
So it'll be a great night. Great night.
Right,
you guys have to join us. All right.
I'll be watching tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to it. All right, Phil.
Looking forward to it too.
Peace out, everybody. Thanks again. See y'all soon.